Today we're on Brentford High Street. London, England, has lost a lot of pubs. Brentford is one of the places that most highlights this. There was once 50 pubs on this high street alone. There was a poem written by a man called Alfred Pearce which named each of the 50 pubs. His family ran the Alexandra on the high street. This is where we're going to start from, and we're going to have a walk down the high street and have a look at what's still here. It's a bit depressing if I'm honest. Behind me, this pub here, though it was already a pub here before it was rebuilt, it was built in the 19th century, in the 1800s, and stayed in the same family for generations until very recently. We know that there's been a change of hands, so whether it's still a family or not entirely sure, but we do know that this particular pub did stay in the same family for generations. Now, as we walk down the road, take note of the features which we still have, but the many uniconic, unimpressive features which have been added very recently. This stunning little pub is the Waterman's Arms. Now, the River Thames is literally just down there. You can't see it on camera, but it's just about 100 yards away. This is a beautiful little pub. It's actually been here from the 1700s, but unfortunately you can't tell its original facade. It's been hidden somewhat because this has been rebuilt. Though, if I ask you to come in a little bit closer for me, Dan, you can see the beautiful cottages which it's attached to, which I think is absolutely stunning. But what's the thing I'm going to complain about? What's the one thing I'm going to moan about? Beautiful pub, but landlord, please don't ruin the place with Beavertown brollies. Yeah? Okay. Other than that, absolutely first class, and it's one of the few left that Brentford has which is one of its originals. Yes, it's been rebuilt, but it's still on that spot, and the world would have moved around the pub, as opposed to now bars are sticking themselves wherever there's room for them. So the Waterman's Arms, beautiful. This is what would become the Beehive Hotel, and this is probably my favourite so far because look at the architecture. You can actually see there's a beehive at the top there, and it actually matches the stunning terrace housing in the background. You can see it's actually had some bomb damage, the terrace housing in the background. But this here now faces an empty site. And who knows what's going to be there. It'll just be another great big new build like that rotten thing over there that looks like it was painted by children in a primary school. But if you look up the chimneys, the features, it's absolutely fantastic. I'd give anything to see more, not just public houses, but buildings in general built like this. Seems that we're rushing everything up very quickly, so it looks like that. Turn around, look. So that's brick. There's a lot more bricks there than there, but that is ugly as hell. So it's all about what you do with the bricks, isn't it? What order you put them in. So this is the last pub that we'll be visiting on our walk down the high street. This is the Six Bells, which is the last pub which is mentioned in the poem. It's a lot nicer than, as you can tell by looking at the high street, it's a lot nicer than most of the high street. And even this building, the council couldn't quite leave unmolested, because this is one of the few remaining buildings in the region which reminds us of what it once looked like. Beautiful tiling, wonderful brickwork, and complemented by modernism.
When I was knighted with a star and garter, I was pushed into an express. On my way to Oxford and Cambridge, I smashed into a plough, and stood aside by the waggon and horses a little beyond a jolly tar, with a lamb by his side receiving a salutation. Presently, fox and hounds dashed by a beautiful hand and flower. When I met the Marquess of Dranby, he fell in the Queen's arms. Tugging with a barge aground, a bull stared me in the face. As I crossed to the brewery tap, the Prince of Wales stood the other side. Up above, half moon and 7 stars, with a glittering star by its side. Cross yonder stood a dram, attached by a lion. When I reached Alexandra, I shook hands with George IV. He advised to salute the Waterman's arms. Then I was back in the King's arms. Up went the roaring cannon at the rising sun. I tried to lift one ton, while Britannia stood one side, and I met the Duke of Cambridge. He told me he lost the feathers. A little beyond, a black boy and still playing with a Catherine wheel. As I crossed the barley mow, there was a magnificent castle. Nearby stood a lion with 3 pigeons overhead, with Magpie and Stump beside it, Magpie and Crown, and 2 black boys ringing 6 bells stood staunch, the Magnet. With Lord Nelson, I got into the Junction Arms. They pushed me into the Duke of Northumberland. Beyond stood George and Dragon, the Standard floating high, with the Angel of Peace. When the coach and horses passed by,